hey, cunts, don't forget to click the subscribe button. And that we're building up value, adding value, bullshit. Not bullshit, I don't mean it that way, but we were adding value. Questions about Dr. Joe? Yes, sir.
If the doctor dies, you pay the debt and the business is yours.
If the doctor, are you talking about the acquisitions that we're going after? Okay. If it's doctor to doctor, if you're not a doctor, it's not that simple. But if it's doctor to doctor, correct. Well, it depends. If there's, has he died intestate, meaning without a will? Does he have any relatives?
He might need that no, because
then he's got nothing. Then you don't pay anything. You just got the business.
That brings up ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're not. I'm not telling. But moral, ethical, legal. Remember? Yeah. But I mean, that doctor died. Not that the doctor that he alluded to when the woman emailed him. A doctor, he's not feeling well. Well, he was not so feeling well. He died not too shortly thereafter. But you don't want him to wait that long. A lot of times they're embarrassed to contact you back when they said no to you. Just like you might have said no and you're embarrassed to call the guy back or the girl back. Well, they're embarrassed. So one of the things that Lucinda Burke did better than any mentee in 26 and a half years is, in those days it was a Rolodex. Her contact files, she contacted every 45 to 90 days. She talked to every swinging dick on her contact list. Again. A banker may have been promoted from senior VP to executive VP. The banker may have his credit line that he can sign for may have gone from 5 to 25 million. The seller all of a sudden came down with third degree cancer. The brothers are splitting up the business and decided to sell now. Something changes, and many times they're embarrassed to get back to you. So you just have it, make 5 calls a day to former contacts. 5 calls a day. It's not hard. Even if you can't, now these you don't have to necessarily get a hold of them. You can say, this is Dan, remember I'm with ABC, we haven't spoken in 2-3 months, how's your business, any change of heart, blah, blah, blah. Even if you can't talk to them, you leave that message. And then, oh, fuck. And then they get back to, I've been meaning to contact you, I was an asshole back then, I realized that the market is drifting away from me. When they say the market's drifting away, that means the value of his business is going down. You may say that to them, but until it resonates, until it registers, then they believe it. Just because you say, right now the industry, our trouble is most of the industries are going up now. So they think if they wait another 1 month or another 2 months or another 6 months, they're going to get more money. So we have examples, and is where businesses that have sold. Remember, you're going to use examples of successful cases, but you're going to have 1 or 2 in your pocket, not in your pocket, but in your notes. Well, you saw such and such. It only sold at 5 times EBITDA. The best examples I used to like to give is when a guy turned down 12 times EBITDA and wound up selling for 6. And they're there. And then, fuck, because they like to think everything goes like this, but it doesn't. It doesn't. What else about Dr. Joe? Same thing. It's easy for doctors. It just is. And it's even easier for lady doctors. That's kind of the pinnacle of easiness, is a female physician. Because they get to check a bunch of boxes. Lady, it's better if it's an Asian, one-titted, 1 leg or 1 foot missing Asian doctor. They got a lot of boxes they can tick. Yes, sir.
He acted with urgency. He didn't wait to think.
No, but I mean, a doctor saying he's acting with urgency and acting with urgency are 2 different things. Because the doctors are, they suffer from what I call the Jesus Christ syndrome. Everybody's blowing smoke. They think they can walk on water, but they don't make the money they used to. Before, a general practitioner made $2-3 million easy. Easy peasy. But now with the insurance company stepping in, a surgery that they might have gotten $6,000 for, now they get $1,100 for. And then they don't get paid. Then the insurance company, 2 years later. So, I mean, being a physician isn't what it used to be. And surgeons, plastic surgeons are still top of the line. We have a couple of people rolling up aesthetic. They don't call them plastic, aesthetic surgical practices. I'm not sure exactly what that fucking means, but it's plastic surgeons cutting on you, basically. And most of the top-notch doctors bring in a junior or 2 juniors for the last 5 to 10 years of their practice, so they can turn the business over to them, and then they buy the senior doctor out. But telemedicine is hot. And it's relatively easy if you're a physician to do this for all the wrong reasons. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We didn't set up the reasons that the bank use. For whatever reason, we don't care. We just know that it's easy for doctors. It's also easy for doctors to do seller finance with another doctor. There's some kind of rapport. It doesn't really exist in reality, but they like selling to
brother.
Yeah, correct. Brotherhood. They like that. It doesn't mean shit, but it makes it something easier. And on that board, our board, we have 3 doctors, all other surgeons. Now that I think about it, I hadn't thought of it that way, but they're all surgeons, and 2 ex-Big 4 accountants. 2 ex-big lawyers, but it was relatively easy for Joe. Easier than it would have been if he wasn't a physician. Any questions about Dr. Joe? It's the same story. Now, Pendejo, you understand that?
Thank you.
Well, no, I mean, everybody learns at their own pace.
So,
Who's open? Okay.
so what's the challenge with the conglomerate?
Oh, and by the way, when people say it's a good question, that doesn't mean it's not a good question.
You put him on the spot.
Yeah. I mean, whenever anybody says that, it's not a compliment to you that you're so fucking bright. It's just that you caught him off guard, and he's got a little more time to think. Okay, conglomerate. I tell you, conglomerates are harder. Conglomerates sell at lower multiples. You can buy conglomerate pieces at 2, 3, 4 times EBITDA. Your board is different. It has a different makeup because you're going to have 3, 4, 5 industry experts because in the various manufacturing, property, yada, 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 okay? Or you'll have, like, I'm a generalist because I know a lot of industries. So you want 2 or 3 of me guys that know a lot of different industries. But you need to know, most of the guys that are building conglomerates are building for legacy to pass on to their families, not to sell. Anelli is going to pass it on to his boys, okay? The other conglomerators, which is not a word, are passing normally. That's the norm. But you can, when you're going to sell a conglomerate, you're normally going to sell to a bigger conglomerate, like ITT or somebody. But it's at a lower multiple because conglomerates get lower multiples. But you're going to pay a lower multiple. So you can buy conglomerate assets at 2 or 3 times EBITDA. And in some cases, like when you were asking me about what if I'm going to find one at 1 times EBITDA, I've had businesses 8 or 10 times in my career, they paid me money to take their business off their hands.
Why?
Motive?
Different motive. They wanted out. They wanted to piss off their ex-wife. I can go down the list. I would rather burn the place down than have, instead they said, well, fine, give me money and I'll take it off your hands.
For the case study.
Yeah. There are businesses that one business, They paid me $9 million to take it off their hand. I sold it back to them for $15 million, and then they paid me $12 million 4 years later to take it back off their hands again. The shit changed. I didn't ask, after the second time I didn't ask why. I didn't care. All I know is that the transfer was going to, title was going to transfer. That's all I was worried about. But there are, and I've seen businesses trade hands, $1 consideration, with no further payments. None. Zero. Just, I need it off the balance sheet by the end of the year.
Being lucky, Mr. Ben.
Pardon?
Being lucky?
It's better to be lucky than smart. But then when you're in the market, then they know, but you got to take the assets as they are. Now, well, you got to clean this up, and what about the tax liens, and what about the liability? No. As is, fine. I'll take it.
Can you break them apart and sell them?
Oh, sure. You sure. But some people need to be out, need to be out of the business by, when you, on a lot of non-competes. This is normally in the entertainment industry. You got to be out of the entertainment business in 3 years. Okay? Non-compete, you got to be out. We realize you have assets. You got to be out in 3 years. They all wait to the last 4 months. And then you sit just like you're sitting at the cemeteries. You sit there, and to be the recipient of that good fortune. But sometimes you buy a pig in the poke. Sometimes there is, because when you buy things like that, when you buy the companies, you're buying past, current, and future liabilities. And you don't always know what the past liabilities are. You think you know. You do title searches and all that stuff. But, the things pop up. But, I mean, just because you've never had anybody, or not until you met me, heard of anybody that got paid to take assets off people's hands, it happens all the time. Another thing that happens, you have DEP, right? And in 2011, you defaulted on your DEP, and then you got current. Normally, they give you a grace period to get current on your debt again. You get 30, 60, 90 days to get current. In other words, make up the payments that you missed. Everybody understand that? Yes. Okay. But you're in default that one time. 99.9999% of all loan documents, once you're in default, you're always in default, whether you cure it or not. Now, I'm going to say this slow. Once you go default, you're always in default, even if you cure it. That means the bank can call the fucking loan any fucking time they want. Anytime. That means I can go to your bank, and the guys didn't like black guys anyway, and we got a whole list of black bastards that defaulted, but they're cured it now. Well, let me look it over. Well, I'd like to buy those 3 notes. And then you pay off the note, normally with a premium. Now, you owe me the money, and I foreclose because you were in default. Happens all day long.
Can you put a clause to say that?
No, you can't there are no clauses. The banks, you're not going to change Bank of America or Chartered Standard or Barclays Bank's boilerplate banking documents. You're not going to put a clause.
EU is the same? Europe?
Correct. Yep.
Sometimes they even put you in another department.
I would put you in another department anyway. Having known you a few days, I would. Okay, go ahead.
They'll put you in another department, like a delinquent type.
Correct.
And you stay there.
Why are you in that department? It sounds like a man who's talking from experience. They put you there because then when somebody like me comes along, and I'm looking for. And now banks don't do that unless they feel comfortable with you. You've done deals. Okay. Well, how can I help you with your default portfolio? This is what you're telling them. Okay. Now in foreign countries, and you get to the default portfolio a little easier. Okay. Yeah, where you are for sure. Yeah, where you are for sure. But then, when I was interviewing for my reality show that never happened, the show was going to be the most hated man in America. And I was going to go around and take businesses away from little fucking guys that own drugstores and shit like that in Topeka, Kansas or wherever. And I said, are you crazy? Do you think that's what I want my fucking legacy to be? to go taking little guys, you know. Yeah, but when they said, well, what do guys like Trump and Icon, et cetera, and what do you know that we don't? And then I asked the guy, I says, anybody got in here, their husbands or boyfriends or fathers in business? Yeah. Do they have debt? Yeah. And we honed in on one lady, her husband owned a pickle factory, for real, a pickle factory. And have you ever defaulted? Oh, yeah, we've made it up. Well, I can go and I can take the pickle factory away from your husband. She says, please do. please do. But that's not what I'm suggesting you do. I'm not suggesting. So there's a lot. Once you get the flow of things, and remember I told Roberto in the webinar, don't explain all that to him. Because there is depth, and there's about 25 kinds of debt. But we're just doing the plain, simple vanilla, either seller's equity, which is, seller finance, or commercial debt, plain vanilla. But there's all kinds of, once you get into this, all kinds of esoteric shit that you can do. That your CFO, your CEO, your chairman, your industry experts will all know about. Your accountants and lawyers. I used to tell our accountants, PwC, any unusual opportunities. To me, the definition to an unusual opportunity is where I don't have to put up any money, they pay me money, or the finance is already in place, but you can't get anybody to go on the hook for it. Because some deals will, unless you understand, for example, I told you, about the difference between drilling in 600 feet and 6,000 feet is 1,000 times harder. There'll be opportunities to go offshore, and they used to bring us opportunities because they know that we had almost endless amounts of money. We had cash to take on a bigger risk than perhaps other exploration companies might do. Donald Trump got his casinos taken away from him back in 2005 by Carl Icahn, because Carl Icahn went and bought the debt and just took the casinos away from Trump. And you can Google that, and that's why when the president was saying that he was going to have Carl Icahn as his Treasury Secretary, I didn't think that was going to happen because they don't like each other. Maybe they would. But Carl Icahn took the casinos away from Mr. Trump back in 2005 by buying up the debt. I mean, it's nothing wrong with it. There are bottom feeders. They're called bottom feeders. And you may not be called a bottom feeder, but bottom feeders, that's all they do. When you were telling me the story about the guy, it made me think of there's crooked models that guys use to take advantage of the naive financially. And this is not one of those models. This is an above-board model that just coincidentally only uses commercial debt. But better sellers finance is the best of all worlds. Sellers. Okay, what else about did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. But conglomerates, you can buy them cheaper because the assets are cheaper. But also it's going to be a lesser price when you go to sell them. Conglomerates just demand or don't demand, they get less, smaller multiples, I'm trying to say. Yeah, sir.
Have you seen a lot of businesses that the person that does QLA becomes the CEO be successful?
Well, most of them aren't CEO. They're the business development, whatever you want to call yourself. Marcus Bauer is an exception to that rule. He is the CEO. And when he was here at Hardcore in December, he used to have a full head of hair. And now it's thinning on top, because it's driving him crazy. But we have had a few guys that maintain the position as CEO. But most of them don't want to be CEOs. If you've been a CEO, you don't want to be one. I got out right at the right time before I probably went to jail as a CEO of a public company. But you want to be the biggest shareholder and get most of the money. And one of the things I learned from the Onassis people, we don't mind eating last, Mr. Peña, as long as we eat most. We don't, for the few that tons of fun in the room, they can probably relate to that. We don't mind eating last as long as we eat most. And unless you really fuck it up, you're always going to have 60-ish% of the deal. We have seen kids fuck it up, but for the norm, it's almost 2 years now, the average of the deals that were completed, you got about 67% of you kids. 67. We had a couple at 52, but we had a couple at 88, 90, because they bought back interest from directors that they wound up tossing out on the butt. But even, 50% of millions is better than 100% of nothing, which most of you got right now. But remember, and I'm not saying discounting it, it's monopoly money. When you go land on Park Place and you got to pay the guy $800, or I haven't played Monopoly a long time, $800, $800 or $1,200. So what? Unless you're going to run out of money, it doesn't make a shit, does it? Because it's monopoly money. And remember, your cost basis in your company, NewCo, is going to be zero. My cost basis in the company that I'm more or less infamous for, I had $820 invested, is 0.0001 cent, 8 cents, per share. So less than 1/10,000th of a cent. That's no money, right? My directors had no cost basis because they got their shares for free. So when the widow Soliday cashed in for $9 million, she had, other than paying capital gains tax, she had no cost basis because, she didn't pay for the stock. She got the stock. And so, but I mean, it's other than luck, it's the only game in town that I'm aware of, and I've been doing this 50 years, that you don't need any money to get started. One of the guys said the key to Peña's model is chutzpah. Chutzpah balls, being brazen. Well, there's some truth in that. So, but we've got mouses that are making, billions. So little mice, little guys you wouldn't believe, little insipid little pieces of shit. The guys, I don't mean it that way, But, if they looked at you and, they had a string of guys here and the girls said, well, which one you would to pick, you wouldn't be the one that they picked, I assure you. Unless something about you I don't know, Then maybe you'd get picked. Yeah.
A question about, so board members come in, you give them equity either.
You close your eyes all the time when you talk to me?
Try to think. So you give them.
He's trying to think. Okay. Go ahead.
All at once.
Okay.
Or vested schedule.
Okay.
And then if they leave, they either lose the equity if they leave in a certain
Let's do the 1/12 like Ives does. Okay. So if you're there a year, you've gained 1%. 1/12 per month. I don't particularly like that, but anyway. So at the end of a year, on the 13th month, you find out he's a piece of shit. You don't like him anymore. You don't like her, or they don't like you, and they leave. They own 1% of the company. Well, being a minority shareholder in a private company is like kissing your sister. It means nothing. You have no rights. Once a year, you can look at the numbers. By law, you can force the court to make them look at the numbers. But you've got no rights. And that's why you don't pay dividends. Because if you pay dividends, then they would be entitled to a dividend. But they are not entitled to bonuses paid based on transactions completed. Okay? So they have 1%. I wouldn't even try to get the 1% back. I said, fine, God love you. You were there when I needed you. You keep your 1%. Now, if they're vested for more, let's say that you've given them 5% and you give them some of these big hitters will want equivalent of signing bonuses. They won't call it that, but they'll say, you're going to have 5%. Well, I should get 2% up front. And depending on whether you want to give them that signing bonus, you do or you don't. It's up to you. But nobody normally, 99% of the time, they're not going to be asking you about that. They're going to want to add value, subject to conflicts, and due diligence. And remember, you ask them the question, is there anything in your background that could preclude us of potentially getting a financing completed I've had IPOs get kicked out of the line a week before the IPO because the big investment banks do big, huge, in-depth checks. There's a thing called LexisNexis, which is very expensive. It's what I call a due diligence machine that they and most of the banks and accounting firms and the big law firms all use LexisNexis to find out if you're a crook. Yeah, but I mean, all you got to do is type in your name, crook. Type in the name fraud. Type in the name, and you'd be surprised. To start with the seminar gurus first. The seminars that you've come to before me. And don't tell me even the results. I know what the results are. The last seminar or the last podcast just type the asshole's name in and put fraud next to it and see what comes up. I know, because I'm the only fucker that's clean. You'll be gobsmacked, as they say in this country. You'll be stunned. You'll be overwhelmed to see the shit that some of these guys have done. But some of them, even though they're crooks, they do add value. Because based on your naivety, just about anything adds value. And that's the truth. And not just you, but I mean in general, the people don't know shit. There was a hand.
What's a more favorable vesting schedule for like QLA model like start?
Well, if you're only going to give them 2%, I mean, you can give them 0.5% a year for 4 years, 1%. And the breakdown that you're going to slide that you probably won't look at says 10% for the chairman, 7 or 8% for the CEO. I've already been through this. 5 to 7% for the CFO, and roughly 2% for all the industry experts and the accountant and the lawyer on your board.
That's a lot.
And remember, well, don't get greedy. Right now you got shit. Okay, so, that's a lot. Have you been taking care of him all his life? Yeah, your brother. You've been taking care of your brother all his life? Okay.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't you? I apologize. I apologize. Okay. I thought it was you.
I'll take it.
Okay. But I would give, I just give the equity because I'm a better, I had the same board for fucking 15 years. I mean, a couple of guys died, but I mean, I'm a better judge of character. And I'm a better judge by just, because I know I've interviewed a lot of people in the beginning, but 1/12 a month, I don't particularly like. I don't like that. It just doesn't sound right. It sounds cheesy, The guy, I'm sure Danielle isn't offering the ex-president of the country 1/12 a fucking month.
So if we ask you,
He'd get up and leave, huh?
If I ask you 12 a month for 4 months?
No. But by the way, I don't do it for 10%.
So 20.
Just
20.
No, because the federal banking law says anybody with 20% or more has to guarantee the loan. So I don't take 20. I take 19.9. Federal banking law, above 20 in America, you have to be on the note. Anybody with 20 or more.
They changed that this year.
Well, now what is it?
5.9.
Oh, bullshit. It's not 5.9. These 5. Yeah. No. Yeah, exactly. I know. If you believe him, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I want to sell you. If you believe this guy.
Is that for chairman only, that rule?
No. Any shareholder that has 20% or more has to be on the note. Okay. Yeah. But probably for you, 0.5%, they want you on the note. And by the way, SBA in America is a great tool. Small Business Administration. I mentioned that the first day. It's a great tool, and but some banks don't want to do SBA anymore because there are 5 million or less deals. Small Business Administration, and you heard the doctor talk about trade associations, etc. Those are all great, and for those of you alumni, most of you didn't go to a school worth of shit, so don't worry about that. But if you went to a school worth of shit, the alumni, you'll have no problem. If you just stick to LinkedIn, linkfuck. I mean, now, contrary to what they say, now they'll say that they're interested in pro bono, charity work they put in their profile. They're there because they want to make a shekel or two. They want to make some fucking money. because their pension or the lack thereof they can't live on. Now, in the old days, when they had equity partners in the accounting firms, you actually own equity in the firm, the pension plans were good. But now you're more or less a partner in name only. You don't own any equity, and so you don't have enough money. And we went through it. I mean, even if you had a couple $1,000,000 in the bank, I mean, you're getting 1% or 2% on your money, you can't retire on that. It sounds all right, $2 million, but I mean, it's not producing any income. Then you're running off to tax havens like the crook, smiling crook. It reminds me of a used car salesman I used to know. You know, big teeth like this. You know, he's got 4 more teeth than all of us, so it makes you smile wider. Yeah.
Sir, can you have something in your contract that if you fire them within 6 months or 12 months, you get back the equity?
No.
For good reason.
No. The only fraud and malfeasance, you get the equity back. Fraud and malfeasance. Everybody stealing. Hand in the till. The Roman way. Hand in the till. One hand up the snatch and one hand in the till. And then, you know.
What was the other word? Malfeasance?
Malfeasance. It's great when these fucking illiterates come here, you know?
But if you change CEOs, let's say 3 times. So the first CEO, okay, so he got 10%. And when he leaves?
Okay, yeah, but now when is it? Before the company's incorporated?
After you close the deal, yeah.
Okay, well then he's got 10%, then you're fucked.
And then you get another one, and then he's...
Well, okay, well you got to fight. You're going to be...
You buy it back.
Thank you. You buy it back. But I mean, normally, let's say after the first deal, let's say you've created a $2 million enterprise value, which you have 2/3 of it, more or less. So 10%, he may have, what, 180 grand, 150 grand. You buy it back for pennies on the dollar. Because he knows that, and so you say your stock's worth $147,000. I'll give you 25 grand today, now, cash money. And you normally always can buy them out, unless there's a situation like you have, where there's a vendetta going on, then they just fucking keep the stock. They drag you through court. They fuck you for practice, blah, blah. But I mean, I've only had that happen once in 26 and a half years that I've been with you kids. Only once.
And you can always buy them out at much
Correct.
lower price.
Well, I mean, there's no guarantee.
Before the deal closes.
Yeah. No. This is after the deal closes. Before the deal closes, I mean, you kick him to the curb in a nice way. Not as ugly as I would, but, you know, don't let the door hit you in your lard ass on the way out. But that doesn't happen. We've only had 3 times in 26 and a half years that the kids, you had to fight for equity. 3 times. And we've had thousands. But you'll be the 4th, 5th, 6th. But I mean, because I'm getting the cumulative effect of fucking lack of neurons or fucking brain cells here. Yes, sir.
A little unrelated. Did we go over?
Okay, YouTube.